morning, Momentum. So my name is Mike Love. I am an elder here at Momentum. Also, former Fantasy Football League champion here at Momentum. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Now, for me, growing up, I grew up in a family of educators, a family of people who worked in schools. And it's a tough time to be in education in May. So yes, you guys deserve that. So I grew up in a family of educators, and I grew up going to constant sports games with my dad. Whether it was neighboring school districts, different things like that, it was schools that he worked for. And I'd see girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, football, all the different things, all the different plays. I was constantly going with my dad, and I loved that. It was a good memory for me, and I loved going to those things because, one, I love sports, but also, two, I loved my dad seeing the relationships that he had with the other people that he worked with. Whether it was different staff members, students, parents, community members, he had great relationships with these people. And I loved the opportunity to see him work with them. For me, I remember one game in particular. I was in high school going with my dad, and we were a little bit late. It was the big high school rivalry basketball game, and in the away team stadium. And we go there. There's a long line to get in. And as we're buying tickets, a guy kind of calls us forward, and we skip the line. So that always feels pretty cool. So we skip the line, and this guy pulls me aside as my dad's talking to someone else, and he says, "Your dad changed my life." And I remember thinking about that. And for me, hearing from my dad what that story was, my dad was his middle school assistant principal. But then that was the moment for me when I decided, I want to get into education. That's when I decided I wanted to be a teacher. So fast forward a few years, I went to Kent State, and, this time of year, I asked them where they're going to school and different things like that, and they always want to say, like, Kent read, Kent write, and all these different things that don't make any sense. And I'm here to tell you it is an amazing place, and I can tell you, next time you're watching your flat screen TV, remember that came from Kent State, and all these different things. So just want to throw that out there. We also made the Elite Eight, all these different things. So I went to Kent State, and I became a math teacher. So a high school, math teachers are a rowdy bunch. So I became a math teacher, and for me, too, it was interesting because I didn't love math. It wasn't anything that I really loved. Math is really hard for me, even to this day. What I liked about math is I am really good at studying. Like, I can study like a champ. And what I learned is if I just study my homework, if I study all these things, I can do the math problems. I can figure this out. So I did. I became a math teacher. But what I loved the most about math is working with the different students. Working with the students. It's funny. Like I said, math wasn't my thing. Kids would ask me, like, "Mr. Love, when are we going to use this in class?" And I'd say, if you become a nurse or an architect. And that was my answer for everything. And my kids were like, I'm not interested in that. For me, I taught the math class for students who didn't like math. I taught a little bit of a class where, kids had struggled before. Maybe they're taking it for their second or third time. Or they just didn't do school well. They didn't play the game of school really well. And so their reward for that is they got 90 minutes a day of math with me. So we would be in math class. The bells would constantly be ringing, and they'd ask, like, "Is it time to go?" And I'd say, "Nope, we got 45 more minutes," and all those different things. For me, though, that's what I loved to teach. It wasn't the math. I loved teaching the kids that struggled in school. I loved teaching the kids that didn't feel comfortable in school, and I loved trying to see how can I make them enjoy this class? How can I make them enjoy school? How can I just help them to have a better day? For me, one of my favorite students in one of those situations that I still remember, as he told me a story. It was funny. I hadn't seen him for a week, so I didn't know what had happened. He comes back to school. He comes back to class, and he goes, "Mr. Love, I was in science class, and I was really frustrated. So you know what I did? I just flicked off the teacher in front of everybody. I flicked off the teacher, and then you know what? I didn't think that was enough, so I took my backpack off, and I flicked him off with the other hand, too." And I remember telling the class, he's telling me this in front of everybody. I say, "All right, well, let's get back to solving polynomials. Like, let's have a good day." Another one, I knew I made it as a teacher when I got my first Facebook group named after me. This was when Facebook just got to high school. My first Facebook group, and it was, "No, Mr. Love, you put away your makeup." And I found that on Facebook. I wanted to join it so bad, but I didn't. I constantly had some students that wanted to curl their eyelashes in math class. These kids, these are my people. My favorite all-time student, I had a favorite. I had him, the last year I was teaching, I had him 4 periods a day. So that's a big chunk of the day because he just did well in my class. And I remember this student, he lived kind of near my house. And occasionally I'd be out doing yard work, and I'd see him walking down the street. I'd see, of course, like a cigarette in his mouth. This is pre-vaping, all these different things. So he's got a cigarette in his mouth, but it was like a sign of respect. He'd see me in the yard. He knew I was going to say something, so he'd always like flick the cigarette out like before he came to my house. To this day, anytime like I see a cigarette like near my driveway or sidewalk, I always think it's like this student saying hi. Either that or it's my boys, Luke and James, out there just smoking. Talking about the weather. It could be. I'm not real sure which one it is yet. So after teaching for 5 years, I became a middle school assistant principal. And talk about, like, I don't think a whole lot of people have good feelings about middle school, but I loved it. I loved being a middle school assistant principal. That was a ton of fun. And for me, I remember my first year, though. My first year, that was tough. I loved the fact that, what I loved about teaching wasn't the math. It was the kids. How can I help them? How can I support them? How can I support their families? And for me, as a middle school assistant principal, I got to do that. I was like kind of the first line when something went wrong, and I was there, and it was great, but it was also hard. It was a difficult position. I remember my last day of my first year, I'm standing in the parking lot. The buses are going away. Everybody's excited. Summer's coming. And, I'm kind of reflecting. I'm kind of getting emotional about, like, man, we did it. I made it through this year. And right as I'm having this nice moment about how much I love kids and all these different things, I hear someone roll down their window, and all I hear them yell is, "See you later, B word." And I won't cuss on stage. And I said, yes, those are my people. Those are the kids that I like. Give me the kids that don't like school. Give me the awkward, the uncomfortable, the energetic kids, and I want to create a place where they love it. Kids are my people. For me, right around the same time that I started teaching, I started coming to Momentum. And actually, I say that I married into Momentum because what that looks like is I was dating at the time Lauren Russ, who is now my wife, Lauren Love. And she always gets more than me when I have things. And when I started coming, she was working in what's called Mo Kids here. And what Mo Kids is, it's our ministry that we have for kids birth up to grade 5. And you come and during the service they go there and they go into those rooms and they learn about God, they learn about Jesus, they hear stories, they have time to play. And Lauren was serving in Mo Kids, and I remember her asking me, she's like, "Hey, we really could use a guy down there. We have some really energetic boys. They're young. We could really use a guy down there." So, of course, I had no desire to do it. I worked with high schoolers and different things like that, so I had no desire to do it. But I'm dating Lauren, so I said yes. So I'm in there. And I feel very uncomfortable. Like, I didn't teach the lessons. I don't do any of those things at this time. But you know what? I can be there for, like, before and after the lesson. I can be there to play. And kids would climb on me and jump on me, hit me. It was awesome. I was bruised. But I did enjoy it. I loved it. But I will tell you, I kind of came into my own as a Mo Kids leader when we came here to Twinsburg, Macedonia. Because downstairs in our K-5 room, we had a basketball hoop. And I decided that on this basketball hoop that there were going to be no easy baskets. Okay, kids were not going to just make these shots on me all day. So I would just stand next to this hoop and just block their shots. And no one's scoring on me. I have never felt more athletic in my life than down there. So to me, that was a highlight for me in Mo Kids. Occasionally I'd let one score, but just letting them run around. I love seeing them get sweaty and get ready and just have fun down there. I loved that time. So kids, they're my kind of people. I love being around kids, and Jesus had people too. Yes, he loves everyone, but he had people too, his kind of people that he loved. And one of the stories I'm going to talk about is Mark chapter 12, and I'm just going to go through it real quick. Feel free to download the Bible app or grab a Bible. But Mark chapter 12, verses 28 through 31. And in this story, someone comes up to Jesus, and at this time, Jesus is going around. He's performing miracles. He's teaching. He's healing people. And someone comes up to Jesus, and he's actually trying to trick Jesus. And he says, what's the greatest commandment? Like, what do I need to follow? What do I need to do? And Jesus' response is, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. And to me, this is where Momentum, they get the tagline, which I heard a lot, and we still hear to this day, is love God, love people. We're going to love God, and we're going to love people. And what I love here is that Jesus doesn't just say, hey, love the people that you agree with, or the people that you go to church with, or the people that you like, you have a relationship with. He just says love people. Love everyone. And that includes the people that might take that extra effort to love. That includes the people that are different from you, that you're not familiar with their story. It includes loving them. I'm also drawn to another story from the Bible where we learn more about the kind of people that Jesus loved. And this comes in Matthew chapter 9, verses 9 through 13. And in this story, again, Jesus is going around. And he sees a guy named Matthew who's a tax collector. And he's at his tax collector booth. And at this time, people hated tax collectors, not only because they're taking taxes, taking away money, but they're stealing. They're liars, they're dishonest. They're the outcasts of the society. People don't like them. And Jesus, he tells Matthew, he says, hey, come follow me. And Matthew gets up and he follows him. Later that day, Jesus ends up at Matthew's house. And they're eating, they're having a good time together, but not only that, but Matthew's friends are there. And you picture, Matthew doesn't have a lot of friends. The friends that he has, they're also tax collectors, they're outcasts. And someone says, a religious teacher, a religious leader of this time, says, why is Jesus eating with these guys? Like, why is he with these people? And Jesus says, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. To me, this reaffirms that Jesus is here. He's here to love all kinds of people. Again, we're not here just to love the easy to love. We're called for the tough cases too, the people who are struggling, the hurting. For me, I talk about how much I love kids. I will tell you, when it is the third time in a day where I'm taking a soap dispenser, fishing it out of a urinal, I don't love kids at that moment. And it's a good thing I wait till everybody's away for those times. There are times that it's not easy to love. But I bring these verses up because God's people, they're the lonely, the hurting, the weak, the needing help, people that are going through challenges, going through tough times. And what I love about that is we've all been there, right? Like that speaks to each and every one of us. We've all been there. We all know what that feels like. We all know what that's like. Yet we are continuing to be loved by God. We're God's kind of people. And I tell you, if you know what it feels like to be one of those things, at Momentum, you're our kind of people too. At Momentum, our kind of people, they're kids. I talked about Mo Kids. We love kids here. We love kids at Mo Kids. What I love the most at Mo Kids is, yes, we do a story and we do all these things where they're learning about God, but there's time for them just to hang out and have fun. And I love it when parents will say, hey, you know what? We're here because our kids make us come every week because our kids have such a good time. Like, we're here because of that. I also love it when a parent says, hey, we've had a hard time keeping our kids down in like a separate church service. We've really had a hard time. They get kicked out, all these different things. I love that. Give us your kids with more energy. Give us those kids who have a hard time. We love that here. Kids are our people. I'm also biased on this one, but Amplify. Amplify is our student ministry, grades 6 through 12, and I'm biased because my wife, Lauren Love, she leads that. And that's a group of adults who work with kids Sunday nights throughout the school year. Talk to kids, show kids what it looks like to have a relationship with God and what that looks like as they continue to grow up, and give kids a safe place to be. And there'll be different Amplify events that will happen over summer, and you'll have more information on that soon. At at Momentum, kids are our people. We pay for camps. We pay for kids to go to camp. We take the money that you guys give each and every week, and we use that to support kids going to camp because we think that kids are important and we think camps are important. Momentum, our people are families. Free pictures with Santa, free pictures with the Easter Bunny, the Back to School Festival. And again, our heart behind this is we want people to feel comfortable here. We want people to feel loved. We want people to have a fun place to go. Our people are people that are going through addictions. The Rejoice in Recovery group that meets on Saturdays. Our people are men. We have a men's Mo group that meets throughout the year. We have a men's camping trip that's coming up next weekend, Friday and Saturday, guys, 18 and over. We'd love to have you there. It's free. Great food, great times. You'll love it. There's information at the kiosk on your way out. Check that out. Sign up and go. We'd love to have you there. Our people are moms. A moms group that meets once a month, the second Friday of every month. Our people are singles, blue collar, white collar, lonely, extroverts, introverts. Our people are all kinds of people, just like God loves all kinds of people. For me, one of the things that I love about Momentum, and this happened not too long after COVID as things started getting back up and everything like that, looking around the room and seeing so many different people shoulder to shoulder with each other. People that you don't see on a normal basis, people that you don't have the same background with. I love that. I love that diversity. I love that here, and that you guys and us, we all get to be a part of that. No matter who you are, what you're going through, you are God's kind of people, so you're our people too. We love you and you're welcome here. For me, as an educator, it's weird because, most people, they make their New Year's resolutions like the end of December, going into January, all that time. For me as an educator, though, my year ends in June, okay? And my next year starts in August. July's kind of weird, But June, I'm starting to think about, what do I want to be like next year? What do I want to do next year? What do I want to accomplish? I start to almost make those New Year's resolutions for the upcoming school year. Well, I think it's important for you to do the same, especially if you're just checking out Momentum for that first time. Maybe you're just kind of seeing what this is all about. I'd encourage you to use this summer to think about how can you get more involved. One, that could mean just keep showing up on Sundays and just keep coming back. Okay? Another thing, if you're a guy going to that men's camping trip, that's a great opportunity for you to do it. Also, two, start thinking about a Mo group. Now, Mo group, those are groups, small groups that meet in people's houses throughout the week during a school year. We talk about the lessons. We talk about what happened on Sunday. But then we see how it applies to our life. Start thinking, even though we don't meet in the summer, start thinking about what Mo group would work for you in the fall. Because, again, as a teacher, September comes quick, okay? And start thinking about what makes sense for your schedule. What night of the week, what location, does it make sense to go right after work or another time? Just kind of thinking about what makes sense for you and start making those plans so that when the fall comes, you're ready to check out a Mo group. You're ready to see what works for you. Also, in July, we'll have this summer reading, the Same Page Challenge. We're on the Bible app. You can get involved as everybody from Momentum can read a chapter of the Bible, and then you can comment about it. You can read what other people are writing. It's a great way to really just start reading your Bible. If you're someone who says, yeah, I've been coming a lot, I follow Jesus, all these different things, what's this mean for you? I would tell you, start thinking about the people around you. What's your kind of people? What's that kind of person that you just love being around? Who do you feel empathy for? Who do you feel compassion for? And how can you help someone? And to me, I think one of the great things you can do to help someone is be that encourager. We don't have enough people that just encourage each other, that just cheer each other on, and be that person for someone else. Be kind. Get to know somebody else. Be a listener. When I came up, there was that video of the Batman and Robins and what that looks like. And really that's just kind of terminology that Momentum's been using for a while. And the Batman is just someone who maybe they've been growing closer to God a little bit longer. And that Batman takes a Robin, someone that they're gonna kind of lead, they're gonna kind of talk to, they're gonna pray with, and just kind of be a listener for that person and help along. Be a Batman to someone else. Be a Robin to someone else. Say, yes, this is something that's going to help me. And meet that person for coffee or a donut or whatever that looks like. For me, a story that challenges me is a story, again, that's told by Jesus in Luke chapter 10. And in this story, we have a guy, a Jewish guy, who's walking along a road. And this guy is beat up, he's robbed, and he's left for dead. And as he's there, a priest is coming by. And you think, gosh, this is going to be great. This priest is going to help him and all these different things. But the priest just kind of goes the other way. Kind of goes the other side of the street and just keeps walking. Then there's a guy, a Levite. And Levite at this time, this is the religious elite. This is like a religious scholar. He sees this guy, and instead of helping him, he just kind of goes the other way. But the third person is a Samaritan. And the Samaritan, what's interesting is Jewish people and Samaritans, they didn't get along. So it would make every sense in the world for this guy just to keep going. But he doesn't. He stops. He helps this man. It says he bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. The love that God wants us to have for others is a love of action. That when you see someone hurting, when you see someone struggling, you help them. And you do whatever it means for your day to help them. Whatever it means, whatever changes are going to happen now, but you do that. You try to love them. You try to support them. It's a love of action. And here we want to give you action steps. At Momentum, there's a lot of great places that you can volunteer with. A lot of different things, whether it's mowing the lawn, fixing stuff, greeting people, setting up frontline, all these different things. A lot of great ways that you can love people. I want to tell you, Mo Kids is awesome. And I'd love for you to be down there and Mo Kids with me. Amplify, another great place. But also over the summer, we're going to give you some different chances to jump in and volunteer. In August, we have the Twinsburg Twins Day Parade. You can go down and you can say, you know what, I'm going to hand things out. I'm going to hand out the cards. I'm going to hand out candy. And I'm just going to be a smiling face to someone. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to make sure that I'm smiling to everyone. And when I'm walking back, I'm going to pick up trash and just be a bright light to people there. We have the Back to School Festival, again in August, where you can sign up. It's a festival here that we provide for families. You can be that person who hands out hot dogs, be that person who just welcomes people, be that person who says, yeah, kid, you can do another round on the bounce house, whatever it is, just to be there for people, to love people, to help people. You can also give financially. That's a great way to serve. That takes action of saying, yes, God, I know that you're going to use my money for a really good way and a really good thing here at Momentum. For me, I tell you that kids are my people. Momentum is a place that loves kids, and I love serving in Mo Kids. And I just want to share one last thing about that. And it's something that's been really cool as I've transitioned, because now I'm the older person in Mo Kids, much older now. I don't think kids think of me as a kid as much anymore, because now we have high school guys that are down there volunteering with our students. And what school is now, they don't want to play basketball with me. I'm too tough. They don't want to play basketball with me. No, they want to play with our high school students. They want to play with Mr. Jack, Mr. Journey, Mr. Evan, Mr. Nathan. And I love that the tradition of No Easy Basket and Mo Kids has stayed strong. And I love seeing that, and I love seeing them do that. I love seeing the impact that they make on these kids. And I think about the fact that I have one kid in there now, I have another one in there next year, which is crazy. And I love the impact that they're going to make on my boys. Their love and action helps to change their life. And you get the same chance to do that. We get to do that together to help change lives together for God. Let's pray.